are your thoughts? Oh, yeah. And they would tell us, well, will you go on camera and say that? No, 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 no. I don't want to be on camera. I might lose my job. Oh, no, no. I might lose a bunch of my customers. Apparently, some of these people were, had some, these were not people on, coming out of a shop or a restaurant. These were business owners, or they had customers of some kind. They didn't want their face on TV, speaking about the National Guard coming to crack down on crime. Others were like, no, don't know anything about it and don't want to comment. I don't do politics. Like, fighting crime is now considered politics? But I think the most shocking thing to me was the number of people that didn't want to do it because they were fearful of how it might impact them. That they might somehow get in trouble with friends or their boss or their customers, that it might cost them something. Was that not the most shocking thing to you, Logan and Thomas?
They want to be interviewed?
Yeah. And why they didn't want to be interviewed. That they were fearful of repercussions for expressing their First Amendment rights.
Scary.
It is scary. Why is it scary to you, Thomas?
Honestly, they don't have an opinion anymore without the fear.
Thomas said people are afraid of having an opinion and expressing it, or they might find themselves getting executed, like Charlie Kirk. Well, maybe it's not just getting executed, going that far. Maybe it's just they're afraid of repercussions. Are you living in a free society? Are we living in a free society when a lot of the population, or a percentage of the population, is afraid to express their views because it might somehow cost them? Has free speech become so cheap in our country that people are willing to sacrifice free speech on the altar of collectivism? On the altar of, I don't want to offend anybody. Has it become that cheap? Because if free speech has become that cheap, we are going to lose it, and it will be lost by choice. When public speakers who are known for just simply wanting to have debate and dialogue, as Charlie was, when those people are taken out, when they're assassinated, when they're murdered, when people are in the UK arrested for calling a cop a Muppet, or arrested for saying, I don't like all the Palestinian flags waving, I think that's offensive, and then they're arrested because that offended someone, and people see that on social media, even though it's over in the UK, people here in America start thinking, oh, maybe I should be more careful with what I say. Maybe words actually are very offensive, and there's no reason for me to go around and offending people. After all, I want to be tolerant. I want to be kind. I don't want to be perceived as hurting people's feelings or being less than civil. If we're wanting to be nice to people, I should probably just keep my opinions to myself. Folks, this is all having an impact. Not just what's happening in America, but what's happening overseas. It's having an impact. People are doing exactly what we've warned about on this broadcast for years, self-censoring. They are self-censoring. Because what was interesting about these man-on-the-street interviews today was that many of these people had an opinion. One lady, she had strong opinions. She had a expletive with every sentence opinion. Did she not, boys? She was that close to going on camera. But for some reason, she said yes. And then right before we started rolling, she said, no, I just can't do it. And then went on to express more of her opinion. She had an opinion. She just didn't want to express it. There was another gentleman we interviewed. You'll see him. He had an opinion. He shared it with us when we told him what it was we were doing. Oh, yeah, and he shared his opinion. Well, we would like to film you saying, oh, no. We had to talk him into it. I guess to me, the biggest lesson that came from this, guys, is how here in the South, where we think people are so conservative and are so patriotic and flag waving and God and country, how many of the folks would not go on camera. They had an opinion. They just did not want to be on camera expressing it. Was that not shocking to you guys? Self-censoring. You know, if the liberals, the progressives, the Marxists, the globalists continue their war on free speech by, can someone take that squeaky toy from Dolly, please? Crazy dog. If people can, if the globalists, the Marxists, etc., can continue to cause there to be ramifications and consequences to those who do express free speech, then free speech will voluntarily be given up. That's why, you know, conservatives and even liberals, classic liberals would say, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend your right to say it. You know why they would say that, folks? Because they understood the importance of maintaining free speech, whether we agree or disagree. And if people are not willing to defend the free speech, even that which they don't agree with, much less even share their own opinion because they're somehow afraid of consequences, then there's not going to be many people left to defend free speech. Do you think people are going to defend free speech when they're even afraid to practice free speech? Isn't that a good question, guys? Are people really going to defend free speech when they're even afraid to express it? If they're afraid to express their free speech, their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas, their worldview, do you really think those same people are going to defend it? I hate to say this, but the progressives, they're having a bigger impact than we realize. I think so. I think we learned that today in a very small little experiment. In a small little experiment where there was no pressure, we're not live, we're smiling. Hey, we're a media outlet. We're just trying to get people's opinion on this, whether they agree or disagree. We're not here to judge your opinion. We're just here to get your opinion and share it with people. What do you think? Very deliberately presented it in a way that would make people comfortable. And yet so many said, oh yeah, I have an opinion. Here it is. Oh, can I film it? No, you cannot. I don't want to. Oh, consequences. Let this chilling of free speech continue. Let there continue to be consequences for practicing our free speech. And more people will learn to self-censor. This went on in the communist regimes, by the way. People would, when communism was finally overthrown, people would say, you're excited about the overthrow of communism? Oh, yeah. I thought you were a communist. Oh, no. I just went along because I was afraid of the consequences, so I went along. What? Yeah. Going along to get along. Let me show this video. We went on the air today for 3 hours. 3 hours already today, this morning. And we opened the phone lines up. They were lit up. I showed this video here. And you can see the shooter. I guess his name is now Tyler. What is it? Tyler something or another. Richardson. Do you guys think there's a gun under there?
Some palm impressions.
Because I'm kind of going back and forth. I thought today, no, under that blanket. Do you think there's a gun under that blanket? Some say yeah. Some say, oh, look, it just kind of went straight there for a second. Look, is that straight right there? Is there something in there right there that's kind of straight? Yeah, part of the blanket on the end is falling down, but there's something straight right there. But then, wait a minute, didn't that just collapse when he laid it down? I don't know. I don't know. Look at it again. What do you think, folks? Is there something under there? It almost looks like it, right? It almost looks like, whoa, let me see if I can stop it in time. Right there. It almost looks like some of it's sticking out to the right, doesn't it, Logan? I don't know. Everybody's debating it tonight. Let's see what else happens. Because I'm kind of gone back and forth. Right now he's kind of pulling it over the edge. Is there a gun under there? Did it go straight again for a minute? For a second? He's reaching down, picking up something, isn't he? Trying to cover it, looks like. Is that a gun there? I don't know. Some people say, yep, looks like there's a gun under there. The object goes straight. The blanket goes straight. And then the blanket collapses around it. Others are saying, I see what you say, but I don't think that's a gun under there. I don't know. The question is, we're in a position where we don't trust the government. And so we're trying to figure it out ourselves. And of course, the media, the FBI, state, local, they're all congratulating themselves. Let's remember, they didn't catch him. His father turned him in, which, I'm glad that happened. But boy, these guys sure are congratulating themselves. But they didn't get him. Well, let's talk to Roger Stone. Let's do some man on the street interviews tonight. And then I visited with Judge Joe Brown. Do you guys remember Judge Joe Brown? He's been in the studio. He's been with us before. He lives right down the street. We visited with Judge Joe Brown there at Overton Square. Now, some of it he gets into is a lot about Memphis, because we were asking him about, as a former judge here in Shelby County, what does he think about President Trump bringing in the National Guard? So he goes on to talk about the utter corruption in our city government over in Memphis. And that one reason we don't have crime being fought like it should be and all the police slots filled is because the money's going toward bogus projects, and palms are being greased. A lot of money under the table, et cetera, et cetera. That if you could get rid of the corruption, you could spend that money fighting crime, but you first got to deal with what are perceived criminals in government. Oh no, criminals don't go into government. Isn't that what the book, The Law by Frederick Bastiat's really all about? People going into government for enrichment, to plunder for themselves or special interest, or for charitable causes. The government isn't there for charitable causes. That's what charities are for, and private donations and people and churches and ministries. But they plunder for themselves and special interest. And then there's no money left for the purpose and function of government, security and protection. Judge Joe Brown gets into it. He then talks about Elon Musk and what's going on. He talks about the ability to generate tons of power here in Memphis off the Mississippi River. But he also talks about barges coming from New Orleans up the Mississippi River, and he says there are things on there that are of major national security consequence. And he claims that along that route that it takes many days to get from New Orleans to Memphis, some of those items on some of those barges are being picked up by smaller boats. I'm just telling you what he's going to tell you tonight. So some of it is related to Memphis. Some of you may not care. Some of it's related to Elon Musk and crime. But you know what? Regardless of whether you live in the Mid-South and this is of interest to you as far as the local specifics, you might find it interesting because human nature and corruption and crime and plundering of taxpayer resources is pretty well the same in every major city. So I think you can listen to a judge that was on the bench here in Shelby County and say, you know what, that goes on in my town or my city, or that I would bet you that goes on in my town or my city. So it may be a little local baseball in some regards, but you might find it interesting because the politicians, a lot of them have the same mode of operation, right? All right, before we go to these man on the street, woman on the street interviews we did, I got to remind you, we're brought to you by you. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Also, don't forget about our national conference coming up. Tickets, people are still registering from all over the country. We're going forward. Reportedly Ben Shapiro and others are canceling. That's fine. They can go do that. We're not. Other folks canceled their conferences during COVID. We did not. You guys might want to remember that when you support different organizations. Who has the guts and the courage to keep going when others run to the tall grass? We're not canceling our conference. We didn't cancel it during COVID, and we're not canceling it now. We're moving forward. And if you'd like to join us, Gordon Chang, the man that brought the red heifers from Israel, will be with us. Sidney Powell, so many people. Chris Martenson, the lead pollster of Rasmussen, and so many more. Alex Newman, Andy Woods, Hadia Miramonde. That's Thursday Night Banquet is optional. The Friday and Saturday is another ticket. They're available at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. And if you can't be with us in person, you can get a vault. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. And then, of course, remember all of our sponsors at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, with that, let's go to some of these interviews. We got more. We'll share more later. We'll just upload them. But let's go to just a few of the interviews we did on the street, asking people here in Memphis. We went into Memphis, and we asked them, how many of you are in favor of President Trump sitting in the National Guard to fight crime in Memphis, as he announced today? Watch this. So here we are on the streets of Memphis, and President Trump announces today he wants to send in the National Guard. It's got the approval of the Democrat mayor, the Republican governor, to clean up Memphis. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, so far it hasn't proven to work in any of the other cities that he has sent them in for, so I don't see it being the answer now. But I guess what's the harm in trying?
Are you scared walking around Memphis?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a sense of insecurity here, or uncertainty. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely something that needs to be done here, for sure. Whether it be the National Guard, I mean, I think Memphis is on another level than all the other cities as far as crime goes. So I think something absolutely needs to be done. So hopefully this does work. But based on the results of the other cities, it's not too optimistic.
So it might be a short-term fix.
Correct. It might be a fear tactic.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate your opinion. Thank you. So President Trump announced today he wants to sit in the National Guard to crack down on crime in Memphis. He says he's the endorsement of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor. What are your thoughts on this?
I think he should stay out of the state business. That's what I feel. You know, unless there's a true anarchy situation, but I don't see that the case at this point.
So the governor is sending in like 50 more national troopers. So you're saying let the governor deal with the troops, the state troopers, and the president should stay out.
I would say that's the first step. See how that goes, and then if he needs help, the governor should ask the president to come in, if that's the case. Otherwise, it seems to me that the state ought to run their own business.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are many people that think that, state rights and the whole 9 yards. The governor's saying that he's going to be on the phone this afternoon with the president, working out all the details and hammering it out and getting it done. He was very reluctant. Like a couple weeks ago, he said, no, I don't want this. I don't know if it's business, but President Trump says he was getting phone calls from business leaders that had to be put into armored vehicles to go out to their business, like FedEx, board member.
Do we want to be run by a military government or not? I don't feel like, I still don't think it's necessary at this point in time, personally.
So you feel safe walking around?
Yeah. It's no problem.
Good, thank you, sir.
Been walking around all day.
Good, thank you, sir.
Bothered me.
Good, it's up to us, right? Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking time for us today. Hey, so President Trump has announced that he is sitting in the National Guard with the approval of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor of the state. What are your thoughts about him sitting in the National Guard to clean up crime here in Memphis?
Well, if they can get the job done, then maybe I can support that with the help of the National Guard and the Memphis PD, and maybe we can clean the streets up.
That'd be a good idea.
I think so.
Are you active Army, military now?
I'm a reservist.
You're a reservist?
Yes.
So could you be one of the guys called up?
Well, it's possible. Yeah. You know, if they call us, then I have to go through with it. And that's what we do.
Do you live in the area?
Yes.
How long have you lived in the area?
About 10 years, I would say. I have family down here.
Are you scared in Memphis? How do you feel about the crime issue in Memphis?
I walk around daily, so I'm always on alert. But I'm not living in fear or anything. I'm just living normally.
There's reports, you can find them online, that the drug cartel, the Sinaloa drug cartel, international drug cartel that reportedly gets their precursor chemicals from China. They're right here in Memphis. They're in major American cities, but they're right here in Memphis. Could you think that could be one reason why he has even said if we have to, we'll send in the full military? You think that's why? Because we got international gangs and drug cartels here too?
Well, if that's the case, then we gotta clean it up. We gotta get rid of the drugs,
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
If you get called up, be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So President Trump's announced today that he's sitting in the National Guard with the approval of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor to help clean up Memphis. If he has to, he says he's willing to even send in the military. What are your thoughts?
No, I would say the crime rate in Memphis is pretty high at the moment, and it makes it kind of unsafe for a lot of people to go out at night. I think it's a good idea to bring in the National Guard and all that stuff, as long as they don't take too excessive of a force, don't just be pushing people out and doing whatever, do your job and all that stuff. In the end, if it makes it safer, that would be fine with me, but as long as it doesn't cause any more trouble than we're already in.
So how long have you lived in the Memphis area?
I've been in Memphis since I was 4 years old.
Do you feel unsafe walking around Memphis?
Certain parts, like I don't go downtown because downtown's like my no-go area, and I don't go like near North Highland Street or anything. I barely come out here as it is, but I mean, I don't feel unsafe. There are times that I do. It just depends on where I am at the moment. Yeah.
Like any major city?
Yeah, absolutely. Any major city has crime that goes up the wall, and you'll feel unsafe in certain places, but in Memphis, it's a higher, take caution of where you're going and all that stuff.
Well, thank you for your feedback today.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
We have actually run into several people who are not from the Memphis area. This nice family are from Northern Virginia. I know exactly where they're from, but I wanted to ask them. So obviously, President Trump announced today that he's thinking about sitting in the National Guard to crack down on crime in Memphis. You obviously don't think Memphis is a problem. I don't think you would have chosen to come here and visit, first of all, right? Were you afraid to come to Memphis over crime?
I'm not afraid. I'm with my protectors. And we have a good reason to be here because we are celebrating with friends and family.
That's excellent. Now, what do you think about President Trump announcing he's sitting in the National Guard to crack down on crime here?
I think he's overstepping, that he has no right to do that it's something that the people from here should decide how they want to do it.
Now, he says he has the blessing of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor. Does that make a difference?
Not to me.
Okay.
I think that it's too much to invite national military into our country like that when there's no good reason for it.
Now, what if you found out that Memphis is a location for the international drug cartel, the Sinaloa network, that they were here in Memphis, working and getting their precursor chemicals from the CCP, China, and doing drugs? Now, does that change it if you're dealing with an international drug cartel tied to the CCP waging war with drugs on America's streets? Does that make a difference?
It sounds like it's some fake news.
How about you? Do you want to comment?
Yes. My feeling is National Guard is for emergencies and things like that. If they really have a problem, then the state should be funded accordingly so you can have a longer term fix. A short term, 30, 60 days, not going to solve anything. Why don't the cartels just go on vacation for 60 days and then come back? So you really, I think things should be methodic, thought out, and done on a long-term basis. Not that we don't support funding for police or anybody else. They should get funded, and if they need to be plussed up, then both parties, Republican and Democrat, should meet and fund them accordingly for the long term.
Thank you, sir. How about you, sir? You're a father, so what do you think?
Yeah.
I guess these are your parents, probably, right?
They
You're a father,
are.
too, and a grandfather.
Yeah. So my opinion is, if there's a lot of talk right now about putting more power to the states, we should let the states decide when they need additional support and provide the support when they're asked for it.
Thank you, guys.
Impose it on them.
Well, thank you, guys, and I hope you have a great time here in Memphis. Have you gone to Graceland? No?
Not this time.
You've been there before, though, right?
Before, I've been here for a couple barbecue festivals, Jazz Fest. It's
Good for
a
you.
great city.
It is a good city. Oh, you've been to the Bass Pro and seen the alligators? Have you been there yet?
We have not been to the Bass Pro here. I have been to a Bass Pro in Texas.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
It is impressive. Well, we're glad you guys are here and hope you guys have a great, safe trip. The time here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so President Trump has just announced he wants to put National Guard on the streets in Memphis with the blessing of the Democrat mayor and the governor of Tennessee. What do you think of this?
Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Literally, my mom called me, she texted me about it, and I'm just utterly flabbergasted. I just cannot believe
What
it.
about it makes you frustrated?
Because it's Americans against Americans.
Would it change it if you found out that the Sinaloa drug cartel, international drug cartel, which gets their precursor chemicals from the CCP, was here dealing drugs with an international drug cartel and enemy state of China? Would that make it a different thing if he was going after the drug cartels? Would that change it?
Yes, that would.
That would.
Yes, that would. I thought it was for like ICE
Yeah.
or something like that. Okay.
So let's say it's separate from ICE. It's just to go after drug cartels that are tied to international gangs. That changes your mind?
That really does change my mind.
What about if you found out it was about stopping also sex trafficking and kids being kidnapped?
Of course, I would be in full support of that. Yes.
Yeah. So that's interesting because with a little more information or maybe some other parameters, you completely flipped on me here.
Right.
But you just needed more information. So do you think if President Trump's going to do this, and it sounds like he is, and he's got the blessing of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor, do you think they should come out and hold a press conference and say exactly what they're here doing?
I think they really should.
So that people that maybe would be against it, they would be for it, right?
Exactly. If we had more information and we know that, like, we're part of the process as well, because this is something that's going to benefit everyone.
Yeah. So your thing is you don't want to see the National Guard coming in here and helping ICE to round up illegals or any group of people based on their immigration status.
Correct.
But if they're here to fight drugs, deal with the drug cartels, stop sex trafficking, stealing cars and shipping them to other countries, which this is happening, then you're all for that. Which would bring down your insurance, by the way. If that kind of stuff stops, bring down your car insurance.
Well, this is Memphis. Insurance is high anyway.
That's right.
It's high anyway. So, yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, the public does need to be informed about what's going on. And to see all these soldiers or a National Guard coming in, I mean, of course you're going to be curious.
Right. But if you have more information, it might make you more in favor of it and even support it.
Exactly. We need more information, of course.
Good. Well, great. Thank you. You're a good interview. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. You're going to keep your logo of the company you work for because you just came off of a restaurant. So we don't get them involved and you in trouble. So President Trump announced today that he's going to bring in the National Guard with the blessing of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor to crack down on crime. What do you think of this?
I do believe that Memphis is an extremely high crime city. I don't believe that bringing in the National Guard will fix all our problems. I feel they're more systemic than anything else. And I feel a higher police presence would just result in higher arrests and overflowing our already terrible prisons. Because, 201 has some of the worst prison conditions.
201 is terrible. It's horrible.
And all we'll do is overflow our prisons, and they'll get out like they have been already. And then the National Guard eventually leave, and our problems will still be the same.
So you're saying it's just a Band-Aid and a political stunt?
I feel it is not a stunt necessarily, but it's to flex his power and to show that he's tough on crime and he's going to go to the worst city or the most crime-ridden city in the country and fix it, which I don't think will necessarily work.
Now, what if I told you that Sinaloa, an international crime cartel, works here in Memphis dealing drugs tied back to the Communist Chinese Party, who provides them with their precursor chemicals to make fentanyl to kill American kids? If we're talking about fighting an international drug cartel that's set up shop in Memphis, would that change your mind?
I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, we should fight drug cartels. I feel like it's not just a Memphis problem. I feel like it's spread all throughout the South.
Yes.
Of course, starting closer to the border in Texas. And I feel, let's get into a different problem. But I feel like we should, they shouldn't be.
So if it's to deal with the drug cartel, then you have no problem with the National Guard coming here.
I'm saying we should deal with the drug cartel. I'm not saying that the National Guard is specifically the answer for it, but I do think it should be dealt with.
Do you think the Memphis Police Department can handle the drug cartel? It seems like they're having a hard enough time just dealing with normal crime.
I feel like the Memphis Police Department, I don't know what I feel about the Memphis Police Department. I feel it's underfunded. I feel like it's corrupt, and we focus a lot of our energy and funds to the wrong places at the wrong times. And like Oakland Square is not necessarily a high crime part of town, but we do have a lot of car break-ins. We do have crime that's not necessarily violent, and I feel as if we don't have enough focused police in the places where tourists and people are to make them feel safe, or in the communities where these crimes and these problems are happening. But once again, I feel as if a lot of these problems are systemic. And
by systemic, what do you mean? What do you think is the root cause?
we have Memphis is a historically impoverished, segregated city, and so, you know, a lack of proper education, a lack of proper resources, a lack of proper nutrition in grocery stores, and because South Memphis, North Memphis, those are all food deserts. You can go for miles and not find any fresh produce or a real grocery store like you can.
But is that part of that because crime and the businessman doesn't want to bring or lady doesn't want to bring their hard-earned capital money into a town to set up a grocery store just to have it robbed or looted or shoplifting, and they're like, I can't afford that. I'll go out of business within a few weeks. But if they get crime under control, then I would love to bring my capital in and offer service and have an income at the same time. So don't those kind of go together, making it a friendly environment for people to invest their capital?
I could see that, but a lot of our crime problems won't be solved until we fix the root problems. These kids are growing up in situations and in environments where they feel that their only way out or the only way to survive is to commit crime or is to go out and do things that they shouldn't do because that's what they've been raised around, and that they don't necessarily have any other opportunities.
But an entrepreneur that comes in and sets up shop and a business, he could hire these kids and begin to mentor them, provide them with a job, and teach them a trade or a craft. That's a good idea, right?
Yeah, in theory, of course.
I mean, I trained these knuckleheads, right? And gave them a job. Where would they be without an entrepreneur like me, right?
I don't know, probably at another job.
Probably had another job. Well, thank you so much for your feedback. Great interview. Thank you. You too. Thank you. President Trump has announced he wants to send in the National Guard to Memphis. He says he has the blessing of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor to crack down on crime. What are your thoughts? And by the way, what do you do?
No, I'm in school.
Oh, you're in law school? You're perfect to announce this.
I'm in business.
You're in business school. Okay, I thought it was law school. Maybe she's the one in law school.
Yeah.
He's in law school. You guys are all hiding out. You guys are afraid?
No,
oh, man.
We're not afraid.
We cannot have it where people, hey, we need people to be able to express their opinion without fear of reprisal, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. First Amendment, right? All right.
America.
That's exactly right. All right. So with that, what do you think about sitting in the National Guard?
I don't really know. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know until you just said that. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're not the first person we've met today. You've been in school today, you said. Okay.
Yeah, we just got out.
How long have you lived in Memphis?
Not that long. I just came out here to go to school.
Good. Where are you from?
Tokyo.
Tokyo?
Yeah.
And you came to Memphis. See, we're an international town. Are you afraid in Memphis? Do you think crime is out of control in Memphis?
I don't know. I really don't do anything. It seems pretty good.
Pretty laid back.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So if his goal was to come in here and crack down on the Sinaloa drug cartel, international drug cartel, tied back to the Chinese Communist Party, who's making the precursors and giving them to make fentanyl to set up drug deals and run drugs, and they came in here to take that crew down, would that change your opinion or make you more in favor of it?
I don't know. I didn't state an opinion, but
he's a good lawyer, isn't he?
No, but I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's the reasoning behind it, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay. What if it's to back up ICE and grab undocumented workers and take them out of here? Does that change your opinion?
You better say no opinion.
What did she just say? What did she just say? Plead the fifth. Plead the fifth. They learned that first.
You're talking about rights. I might got to plead the fifth.
Yeah. Plead the fifth on that one?
I might got to plead it.
All right.
Interview once I pass the bar.
You got to do one interview to pass the bar. That's the only one you want to do?
Yeah, I do after I pass.
After she passes the bar.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brannon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. Joining me now is the great Roger Stone. Mr. Stone, welcome back to the broadcast. Great to see you.
Great to be back with you, Brannon.
You too. All right, so we do have some good news today. Looks like they have a suspect. Of course, there are a lot of questions around this guy. Where's the gun? He's jumping off the roof. There's no rifle. It's not in his pants. You can't bend your knees and jump. It's not in that towel. We've played the videos over and over. Where is the rifle? And if he took it apart, it didn't fit in the bag because we know how long those are, even if you took it apart. And why would it be reassembled in the woods? I don't know. There's just I went for 3 hours this morning, and our phone lines lit up. And not one person called in buying any of this. What are your thoughts today, Roger?
Well, I think you're right to be skeptical. I mean, our government has lied to us so much about the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963, lied to us, as you will all learn very shortly, about the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. Just finished a book on that, which will come out around Christmas. There are so many unanswered questions about the two attempts on Donald Trump's life for which we still have no answers. And now, as you look at the facts as they're being presented to us, nothing really adds up here either. So while I would like to believe that this is alone, not acting alone, not that would justify anything, would still be a horrific tragedy and still be emblematic of this spasm of violence on the American left. There are so many unanswered questions. Two decoys in the audience, both of whom waste the precious time of law enforcement as posing as the shooter. That's troubling. Guy makes a clean getaway, allegedly without any Confederates. That seems rather odd. If you look at these messages on the gaming board, they look more to me like instructions rather than messages. And then the fake news media report that the shell casings were etched with pro-transgender markings turns out to be completely false based on what they're telling us today. So once again, very much like Butler, Pennsylvania, we have more questions than we have answers.
Well, there seems to be a conspiracy. Here is the governor, Governor Scott. Is that his name? Governor Cox. Here he is. There definitely seems to be a conspiracy. Here we go.
Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits.
Interesting.
I know there's been speculation.
So I'm not buying that. I mean, now, do you think that was that supposedly to drop it off? Was that to pick it up? Which one do you think that is?
I mean, we would only be speculating. First of all, let's be very clear. Just because Governor Cox is a Republican does not mean that he is a Trump Republican, which he most definitely is not. He's a never Trumper, as a matter of fact. He's very, very much a globalist. So even though it's Utah, do not assume that the public officials that you are dealing with are pro-constitutional conservatives, because in his case, he most definitely is not. That makes me suspicious off the top of it. And again, there are many pieces here. I'm not an experienced marksman. I'm not experienced with a gun. I'm learning. And therefore, someone far more knowledgeable than me should speak to the question of ballistics and how difficult that one bullet, how difficult is that shot to get off and be successful, taking into consideration wind and many other factors. Again, that's a question for somebody other than me. I do know a lot about the history of assassination as a political weapon in this country, and we have never, based on history, been told the entire truth. We're still struggling, even today, to wrest from the CIA and others pieces of information that they're still withholding regarding the assassination of John F. Kennedy And that's with the president's order for full disclosure notwithstanding. Kudos to Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna, who continues to fight with the bureaucracy over pieces of that puzzle that they still haven't turned over.
100%. 100%. All right. So you have a new book coming out on the real truth behind the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. These things seem to have a pattern, always a patsy, right? And the patsy in the case of Oswald got taken care of by Jack Ruby. I noticed, one of the first things I noticed when I went live this morning, and they released the mugshot of the suspect, is the first thing I noticed, Roger, is they look like they have him already wearing a bulletproof vest. I'll find it real quick here. Apparently, they're concerned that even in the police station, we have to have him wearing a bulletproof vest. Are they that worried? I guess they don't want another Oswald situation, but that looks to be a bulletproof vest, Roger.
That appears to be the case. Look, I don't. Could this even be an inside job? Of course it could. There's no question that rogue elements of our own government were involved in JFK's murder. This is other than a small handful of lone nutters who continue to insist that Lee Harvey Oswald was a communist nut acting alone. No one believes that. Virtually no one believes that. So anything here is possible. I think we immediately get branded as conspiracy theorists or crazy if we question the official narrative. In this case, I would just urge everyone not to rush to judgment until we know a great deal more, because we don't even know a fraction of what we need to know about this case. And I still have questions while we're at it about Butler, Pennsylvania, that don't add up.
Yeah, and by the way, we're being told that is a suicide prevention vest. Oh, okay, well, let's lay the narrative. We had to put a suicide prevention vest on him so when he commits suicide, well, we did everything we could. We even put a suicide prevention vest on him, but we couldn't prevent it. How convenient, your guy's gone. Let's hope this guy makes it to trial.
Yes, absolutely. Look, again, I think we're missing the forest for the trees in a certain sense here, and that is this spasm of violence on the American left, which trying to blame on us because we express our belief in God, because we express our belief in the Constitution, because we express our belief in free speech, because we express our belief in capitalism and free enterprise. And they say, oh, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a white supremacist. We are none of those things. In fact, we denounce those ideologies. Those are actually ideologies of the left. So this whole, oh, Charlie had it coming, that you hear coming out of MSNBC, or that you hear coming out of the most repugnant outlet in the country, The Guardian, which is the guardian of nothing other than lies and distortions. This is deeply disturbing because it is very clear to those on the left now that their party is in shatters, that they can't win an election, that they don't stand for anything other than opposition and hatred for Donald Trump and his America First agenda. And therefore, they are the ones who are resorting to violence. This is an area where I agree with Alex Jones. They really would like to goad us into acting violently against them. So they can blame everything on us. And as tempting as that might be, given your anger over what has happened to a great man, a great patriot, you cannot give in to those impulses. You absolutely cannot. Charlie Kirk spoke up in favor of a pardon for me, both publicly and privately, when most Republicans were still buying the Russian collusion nonsense and saying, oh, just let Robert Mueller do his job. Well, his job was dirty work. His job was based on nothing. There was no probable cause to even have a special counsel, to even have a congressional investigation, because there was no Russian collusion. It was a complete and total fabrication of John Brennan and James Comey and Susan Rice and James Clapper and Joe Biden and, yes, Barack Obama. We now know this thanks to the courage of Tulsi Gabbard and the firm direction of President Donald Trump. all absolutely established. This is not investigative journalism. This is not speculation. This is not great journalists like Lee Smith or John Solomon or Paul Sperry putting together pieces. These are the official documents, not our documents, their documents. And they prove that this was the greatest single dirty trick in American political history. This was nothing less than a massive abuse of power in which the full authority of the United States government and the extraordinary capability of our intelligence agencies were used in an illicit effort to undo the results of a presidential election. And the question now that hangs in the air is, will anyone be held responsible for it? Will anybody be punished for it? I'm still hopeful, but I'm also getting impatient. Didn't take them long to indict me. Didn't take them long to frame General Flynn. Didn't take them long to frame Paul Manafort. Didn't take them long to try to frame Donald Trump. So what are they waiting for?
A very good question. Callers were asking today when they called into my broadcast for a special morning broadcast, do you think they took out Charlie because he was so effective with young people that there seems to be a rising tide? Some are even saying there was a revival underway, a spiritual revival with the young people. Kirk, of course, obviously being a committed Christian and talking a lot about the Bible and the gospel. Do you think that as some callers were saying, he was way too successful for the left when it comes to young people, that this was going to have a big impact on the midterms, future elections, and that also Charlie himself, while 31 years old, still needed to get to that age of 35 to run for president, was presidential material, or at least vice presidential material, putting him one heartbeat from the presidency, that this guy was a shining light into the future of America's leaders, and he was just too effective? What say you?
I definitely think that he was murdered because of his effectiveness. What's really amazed me is the outpouring of text messages and emails and phone calls from, if there are people my age, then the message is, it's amazing how profoundly this has affected my children or my grandchildren, or young people themselves contacting me and saying, oh my God, look what they did to Charlie. So I always had a high regard for him, obviously. I spoke at all of his Turning Point USA conferences, was honored to do so, but his impact was well beyond even what I thought it was. Although I think he might have made an intermediate stop, say, in the U.S. Senate, maybe from Arizona, or as governor of Arizona, he definitely had political aspirations and ambitions, and he was preparing for them.
Did he share that with you? Did he share his political aspirations with you?
Very definitely. He moved from Chicago to Arizona. I think one of the reasons he did that was to live in a state where a conservative Republican could get elected. That is not Chicago, Illinois. I do think he had political ambitions, but he had greater ambitions for the country and the movement. I do think people underestimate the whole separate political arm of Turning Point USA. In other words, beyond his nonprofit educational activities on the campuses, he pumped hundreds of thousands of dollars that he raised into those swing states for key voter contact activities that I know firsthand were extraordinarily effective. We're not talking about TV commercials or radio commercials or cable commercials or even digital commercials. We're talking about good old-fashioned shoe leather, door knocking, the old-fashioned one-on-one style of campaigning that is still, in this age of mass communications, not only still effective, perhaps in some ways more effective than ever before. Charlie made a major impact in every one of these swing states in the final months of this campaign. Yet another reason why he was so effective, yet another reason why they brutally murdered him.
Did he ever say, Roger, I'm thinking about running for the Senate, or I'm going to run for the Senate, then governor, I'm running for governor, then Senate, or House, and then Senate, then governor? Did he ever talk about any specific office to run for?
You know, I'm going to pass on that question because I don't feel right talking about a private conversation that he's no longer with us to approve. I take kind of the same view I take about conversations with President Trump. The content of them is private. I'm not going to comment on them. I'll tell you what kind of mood he was in, but I'm not going to tell you what was discussed. Suffice it to say that I do think he had potential political ambitions. He's not focused on any one specific office, but he'd asked about the viability of a candidacy for a couple different offices. I think there was a day that he was going to run, but his life's work was on these campuses. This is where he had the greatest single impact. Yes, I think they cut down that person within our movement who was most effective at moving young people. Where has the left been extraordinarily effective? By getting control of the education system, they're indoctrinating our children with Marxist ideology, with atheistic Marxist ideology. And Charlie was countering that. He was bringing the gospel to campuses. He was bringing God to campuses. He was bringing free enterprise and capitalism and free speech to campuses. And his attitude was, let's debate these things. Let's discuss them. I'm here for a rational discourse, not to sow dissension. And this is what bothered them about him, because his approach was extraordinarily effective.
I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but do you think Charlie's life was at risk not only from perhaps the left, the Marxist, the Islamist, globalist, but do you think his life was at risk from a uniparty? Are there people in the anti-Never Trumper uniparty that don't want to see the rise of America First candidates like Charlie? In other words, would you be shocked if you found out that it wasn't just the left that was maybe involved?
Well, I think to a certain extent, Brandon, it's a mistake for us to see things today, certainly a mistake to see things within the context of Republicans and Democrats. The truth is, until Donald Trump came along, both major parties were the captive of the globalists. And this was Ronald Reagan's greatest single mistake. He wrestled control of the Republican Party from the establishment, from the Eastern interests, only to hand it back over to them in the personage of Vice President George Bush. We reached a point by 2016 in which the neocons, the globalists, had firm control of both parties. And Trump did the same thing Reagan did. He most improbably, but very effectively, wrestled control back from them. So speaking in Republican Democrat terms is almost outdated. And then you have in
So wait, let me just stop you there for a second. So you agree with me? Is Roger Stone agreeing with me that I'm not looking at just the left? I don't trust a lot of people on the other party. I don't trust them. And so I don't trust the uniparty not to take people out, whether it's right or left. Is that what I just heard you agreeing with?
Yeah, yes, basically. Let me take the next step, which is to say 2024 begins the forging of a whole new political coalition in which common sense Democrats like Robert Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and Rod Blagojevich and others make common cause with Donald Trump. This isn't about the Republican Party. The Republican Party is limited in its reach, whereas Trumpism and America First principle are far more popular, far more marketable than the Republican brand. So I think that I've always believed that there is an elitist majority out there, not majority, but an elitist entity that has dominated both the business world and American government. And Trump has struggled control back from them, and he has to hold on to it, and he has to pass that control on to a successor. But at the end of the day, sadly, somewhere today, there are some Republicans who are smirking about the death of Charlie Kirk. They're not the kind of Republicans that you and I would ever vote for, but they exist.
Yeah, and I think there are some presidents in the past who actually referred to some of these groups as a power elite, the power elite. They didn't really care about party. I have some quotes somewhere in one of my presentations about some of these people, but I think that's in part what we're talking about is a power elite. You want to comment on that?
I'm sure, yeah, Brandon, I'm sure you've seen this, but I urge you to go back and get it because I play it constantly. Dwight Eisenhower, who I still believe was one of our greatest presidents, brought us unprecedented peace and prosperity. Because he was so low key, and before it was really just the beginning of the television age, I don't think he gets credit for the greatness that he brought to the office. But go listen to his discussion and his final warning about the accumulation of power by the military industrial complex. He warned us very specifically on his way out where we would end up today. Go watch it. It's incredibly effective. And of course, those are the people who killed John F. Kennedy. Those are the people who removed Richard Nixon in a silent coup as he threatened the power of the CIA and the national security apparatus. Those are the people who tried to kill Ronald Reagan. They're the same people who tried to kill Donald Trump. These are very, very dangerous people. They don't operate on the basis of party. They're in both parties. And they're used to being in control, and they were in control until Donald Trump came along. And now they are no longer in control. Then they got control again by stealing an election. And then they lost control when Trump staged the greatest single comeback in American political history, a fact that they really can't quite get over. And what is their response? Their response is violence. That's their response.
Indeed it is. Roger Stone, it's stonezone.com, stonezone.com. Tell our folks about your broadcast, where they can hear them, and your new book coming out.
Sure. You can hear me every day at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern on WABCradio.com at 77 WABC, the biggest, most powerful AM radio signal on the face of the planet. Again, WABCradio.com. If you don't live in the greater New York area, you can hear it. You can hear it in real time, or you can hear it after the fact by going to WABCradio.com. And of course, you can always read everything I write, watch my interviews, buy my books, and so on at stonezone.com. So 5 days a week, the Stone Zone radio show, The Stone Zone, at WABCradio.com. or my website, stonezone.com.
And I must tell you, we are very, very happy about President Trump today announcing he's sending in the National Guard and, if necessary, the military to Memphis, Tennessee. You've been here in our studio. You've been here to Memphis. It has a lot of opportunities. Memphis is on the verge of exploding, becoming a great place. With, of course, FedEx is here, St. Jude's, AutoZone, International Paper. Elon is here. Google is coming with a data center. There's a lot of businesses here, but we have a crime problem in four areas, really. 4 areas, a lot of areas where none of us ever go, but they need to get under control. We have the Sinaloa drug cartel here. It is appropriate, I think, to bring in the National Guard to deal with the Sinaloa drug cartel that's in partnership with the Chinese government, the CCP, to bring down the country, and they're in many cities. And I am all for it, because President Trump is going to help us make Memphis great again. Closing comment.
I completely agree. Look, I still think the president needs to take a hard look at Chicago. I had the former commissioner of the Chicago Police, Richard Brezak, on my show the other day. Was a great guest. Talked about what's changed about policing in the great city of Chicago. It's a war zone. It's become the murder capital of the United States. You have a governor and a mayor in denial. They're more concerned about their political power than they are the safety of their community and their neighborhoods. So I also welcome this move into Memphis. I've been following the crime epidemic in that city. I think the president's doing the right thing. Donald Trump understands the first responsibility of the president of the United States is to preserve order.
Yes.
To protect citizens. Takes this very seriously.
Indeed, he does. I'm so glad he does. Stonezone.com, stonezone.com. And I'm glad you're my friend, Roger.
Thank you. God bless you.
Roger Stone checking in tonight here. And one of these days, maybe we'll get back to producing a TV show for him. That would be great to do again. Roger's smiling. All right, we'll be right back after this break.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. WorldviewHealthcare.com. That's WorldviewHealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. Here we are at Overton Square in Memphis with Judge Joe Brown. So, Judge, he just had some admirers. They wanted their picture with him, and he gave them some law advice. They were in law school, actually, so he gave them some great advice. Judge, what do you make of the announcement by President Trump today that he wants to send in the National Guard with the approval of the Democrat mayor and the Republican governor? What do you think of this?
They need to send it in. The Republican governor is not doing too well in his popularity these days. The Democrat mayor is trying to maintain a grip on a little deal that he put together when he was running downtown development with some other people. See, you know, Trump is properly against DEI and all of that other stuff, but there is a decrepit downtown hotel that represents a major international hotel chain that when the current mayor, Paul Young, was over downtown development, they got a contract for that's close to $220 million that the city is paying to develop the reconstruction and renovation of that hotel property. Now, it says on their website that they have an 18.7 minority set aside. And when Young got the previous mayor Strickland to put the $220-some million in that, there's some federal funds involved, and that's not, shall we say, kosher with the current administration.
So are you saying there's been political pressure put on the Democrat mayor to get him to agree to let the National Guard come to town?
He doesn't want too much attention because this is probably one of the most corrupt cities in the United States when it comes to official corruption. That's one of the reasons the crime problem's so bad. How are you going to expect the streets to be safe when the biggest crooks may be down in City Hall? Now, there's another thing, too. The company says 18.7% minority set aside, but the mayor is saying it's only 15%, so there's 3.7. Yes, 3.7%. That's $220 million. You might also consider right downtown, just in back of the Peabody, there is a 25-acre cleared parcel, grass, and the grass is cut right across from the Redbird Stadium. That property was sold to a developer for a ridiculously low amount, and there's $200+ million the city is committed to financing the development for that place too. So you might want to check and see who gets it. Now,
so you're saying the Trump administration or someone on the ground is maybe informed the Trump administration about some of this, and some of this could be being used to say, hey, I think you, mayor, and folks in the city government there might want to let me come on in, and you guys should be excited about it and telling everybody you want it.
Because crime's out of control. Our mayor goes to a place like Folks Folly, but he's got 6 to 8 cops in uniform that are his bodyguards. Myself, former congressman, former mayors of this city, we walk amongst the people and everybody greets us, but the current mayor is afraid of the people he represents. He can't talk to them. Now, see, we've been trying to push something around here, which is using the Tennessee constitutional carry provisions to allow the citizenry to set up a citizen militia where they get cooperated with by the sheriff's department, the police and the sheriff's department open up these firing ranges again that got closed down some years ago, train the citizens, teach them the law, organize them, have communication protocols, use some communication equipment so the citizens don't feel helpless and they get an opportunity to get out and be involved in making their community safe.
Are we one of the few states that allows for that?
One of the growing number of states that allows constitutional carry.
But I mean the setting up of the militia.
We haven't done that yet, but we could under Tennessee law. Now, some of the things that are going wrong here, like Elon Musk is setting up this XAI, and it is a very important thing because Memphis is centrally located in terms of national distribution. It is the distribution capital of the U.S.
With FedEx here.
FedEx here. UPS is here, the bulk mail center is here, and everything flows through Memphis. And this little rinky-dink airport we have has the largest commercial tonnage in the whole world, and Hong Kong is about second behind it. There's an opportunity to use what is here to open up a world center and make Memphis what in effect would be the Silicon Valley for the 21st century. But these petty clowns we have here, I call them our local yokels, don't understand that. And it's too much, what am I getting here? Like, there are some of the pop politicians that if you go check them out, you will find that they are getting contributed to by some of the people that they nominally attack. It's called followthemoney.org. Followthemoney.org.
I'm aware of that.
All right, and it will tell you who's getting what and what for. Now, Musk is trying to donate an $87 million water purification plant to the city of Memphis. He jumped ahead of everything by making his application for a permit a year before he had to. He got issued that. There are some people that are lying through their little bribe-seeking teeth about Musk operation is, shall we say, causing pollution, but there's never been a study. And
Because he set up some generators or turbines or something.
Gas turbines, but
yeah.
there's no finding because there is no EPA report. That's a tale. And as a matter of fact, our current mayor had been talking about they were going to have an EPA evaluation done in 2 weeks, which got extended to another 2 weeks, and it hasn't been done. So our Justin is here pontificating about the evils of it, but Boxtown is a hellhole. It's filthy. The streets are filled with potholes. There's extremely low employment there. The per capita income is ridiculous. The crime rate is ridiculous. And on that island, there's even a refinery that's been there for decades that is contributing to the pollution. So Musk's operation is not doing that, but somebody's trying to
imply that he is.
Yes. So that is holding the whole area back, and we don't need that. This could be big. This place has been renovated. It used to be Overton Square, and there were different businesses around here when I first got here 50 years ago. There was a TGI Fridays over there, an Italian restaurant next door. This used to be a steakhouse and an amusement center down here at the end of this block. There was a hotel everybody used to go to buffets to across the street, but it's gone downhill. But now what is happening here in Memphis is something very insidious. Some of the locals were talking about making this a sanctuary city. Why? Because Blue Oval,
the Ford plant over...
Not Ford. Blue Oval is a South Korean corporation, just like Hyundai. And you remember the mess down here with the Hyundai plant where ICE came in and got... Well, what's going on is Blue Oval is supposed to be hiring close to 30,000 employees. 15,000 of them, according to the company, have already been hired, but they're South Korean nationals.
Oh, wow.
So they're trying to bring them over here. And a lot of what's happening with the decay of the infrastructure is because there is a shunt line from Memphis going out to Mason, which has 5,200 people, that goes back almost 40 years. And in 1997, Memphis passed a referendum that said Memphis Light, Gas, and Water cannot enter into a new contract out of this area, and that's a pre-existing one. So Blue Oval wants to wipe out Mason and bring in 30,000 new employees, most of whom will be foreign.
Oh, wow.
So that means bringing in 3.5 people per family. You're talking about 100-some thousand people, and when you get in Malco, Mickey D's, and everything else that they need to do what they need to do, you're talking about 220,000 people in a city that Memphis is going to have to finance the shunt line for the sewage and the water out there to operate a 30,000 man factory, plus another 200-some thousand in the city, which will probably be about the fourth largest urban area in Tennessee. So there are some people that are just salivating in anticipation of the contracts they're going to get. And a lot of that is what's going on down here. We have a thing right down this street here. If you go down far enough, it's what used to be Nathan Bedford Forest Park.
Yes.
Tammy Sawyer and Van Turner, who were on the county commission, they introduced an act so that Van Turner's corporation could buy that park for $1,000, no bid. The city of Memphis has been upkeeping that park, and then the hospital complex down there wants to rent that out for quite a bit. You might want to inquire whose brother got the contract to take down Nathan Bedford, who got paid how much to store it, where the statue from that location is now, and also down here at the Metal Museum on the bluff, who came up, same two individuals, with selling that property to somebody who was actively on the county commission that sponsored the legislation. His corporation got to buy that park for $1,000. And they also have something, and I'll call it green space. And green space is chartered to operate city and county parks. They're trying to get an agreement with the city and the county to operate all of the parks in the area. And that would include right down the way here, where you are going to get the Liberty Bowl changed into a soccer arena for previous mayor set it up for $700 million, and build the new football arena for allegedly $3.5 billion, trying to get the Tennessee Titans in here. And if you go down where I just left on Elvis Presley, where the Presley Mansion is, it looks like a minefield with the potholes. And you see, this is what's going on in this city. One of the reasons it is so crime-ridden is because too many of the resources that should be devoted to this city are being under the table corrupted and misapplied and misappropriated.
What about unfunded, how about jobs for police officers that are...
There are quite a few, several hundred actually, funded positions that are not filled. And one of the problems with the police department and the sheriff's department, it is out of the control of the chief administrators for both entities, is that some of the street gangs have infiltrated those departments. Ooh. That's why you have such a high homicide rate down here for pretrial detention, which is 10, 12 times the total that came out of there in the last 40 years.
And that's because of why?
Because you have street gangs infiltrated. People turn a blind eye because Brother Jamal has a girlfriend who's related to this guy, and this person's a deputy jailer, or you go and you find the police, and there's some fine young men, but a lot of them will tell you, I'm not going down there, that's not my posse, I'm not going to die for that kind of crap. So
are you saying basically the criminals, whether they're in an elected position or the criminals on the street, are running
you got
the town?
Folks downtown. They need to audit this whole place. Now, I started this when I was on the criminal bench 30 years ago. Grand juries under Tennessee law have the authority to audit all activity conducted by all state, county, or city entities within their district. This is the 30th Judicial District, and it's contiguous with Shelby County. It was shocking what we discovered. For example, the city put in, well, the county put in all of the phone system that was used at the penal farm, the juvenile detention facilities, and so on, but they turned it over to somebody to give them 4% of the net. And when I had the grand jury look into it, this was circa 94 or 95, the net profit was $94 million. And we were only getting 4%. This guy didn't even have an office. He had a secretary who collected the checks from I think it was now AT&T, but it was Bell South then. So
This was for people to make phone calls that are in the jails to pay for them.
So yeah, they collect calls. So the phone company collected and sent a check, which should have gone to the people. Now it's operated out of Texas, but the next year it went up to $112 million was the net profit, and this guy got 4% that he sent to the city. See, that kind of thing is going on. You drive down Riverside Drive and you see Beale Street Landing, that grass-covered hillock.
Right.
Well, somebody put up $35 million of the city money to finance the development of that, and the guy was supposed to operate a gift shop, bar, and a grill.
Right.
So he bailed, and nobody went after him, so the city's got a white elephant they can't do anything with because...
That's right there on the river there.
Right there on the river. And the city can't operate a bar. So we've got that.
So what you're saying is every time we turn around, there's just misappropriation of funds.
Exactly. And somebody...
And so instead of the money going to fight crime, it's going for projects that ends up being, you know, greasing somebody's hand, and that money's gone, it's wasted, and they tell us they need to raise taxes to fight crime, but what they need really to do is stop the political corruption and the greasing of palms and spend the money on fighting crime.
And then the vote situation is horrible here. It's corrupt. Back in 2008, the U.S. Department of Justice put up the money to replace all of the voting machines. They were deballed voting machines because they had been found to be corrupt since 2000. And the Department of Justice issued quarterly reports from that point on, every quarter, and it says, once again, Memphis is not capable of conducting a fair and a legitimate election. So this county did not put the money out there and spend it until 3 years ago, and then they kept the machines in the warehouse for a year and a half. So when I voted the last time, I personally witnessed 2 people vote twice.
Oh, wow.
You know, you're supposed to be separated, but they had people sitting right next to each other if they decided to exercise the option of filling in their ballots rather than having a computer do it for them. So nobody has any way of authenticating those ballots, and people just drop them in. So if you want to cheat, you come in and you just have some pre-printed ballots when the polls close, and you run them through the machine, and there's no way to tell which are legit and what's not. And
so you agree with President Trump, we need to go to paper one day, voting paper only?
Well, yeah. We have to do something, but even that's not immune from cheating, because remember, they used to stuff ballot boxes. And Errol Ford Sr. got elected the first time as congressman. He was a Democrat, but that was in 1974.
Is it his nephew that's the one that's on Fox News?
I don't know.
That young Ford, yeah.
That stuff anymore anyway. But what happened is in 1974, it was all paper. They were showing that he was losing to the incumbent who was named Kirk. So Ford went down there, almost got himself arrested when he literally kicked down a barricade and found all of these boxes of paper ballots that were hidden. So that's not unknown. And then I was with an individual this last November 2024, and I was representing a lady who's running for Congress as a Republican, fine lady, and we're down there and they've got a problem at the Maine Election Commission. You know what it is?
What?
They have more votes that are cast at certain precincts than people signed in to vote, so they were trying to figure out.
So more votes than voters?
Yeah. So watching them scurry around.
Let's go back to fighting the crime. We have been looking and reading reports that the Sinaloa cartel is here in Memphis and many other cities, and they're getting their precursor chemicals from China. Judge Janine just did a big bust and showed all these precursor chemicals that came from China through Mexico that she seized. Is that one reason you think he's bringing the National Guard in here, is to deal with the international drug cartels as well?
The drug cartels are interesting. A lot of guns come in illegally through Memphis, but the crates of illicit firearms come in with the kilos of illicit drugs. One of the things that is not checked is this thing that actually offers trade opportunity to this area. In Europe, they have these specialized containers that they use to load trucks, planes, trains, barges, and the barges are floated down the canals and estuaries to the Mediterranean, where they are put on board these ocean-going barge transports. If you're ever in New Orleans and you go down to the port, you'll see these things that look like 1,000-foot-long streamlined oil tankers. Those are barge transports. So when they get there, they drop the rear hatch, float them out, they get a tow, which takes about 30 days to get from New Orleans to Memphis. Nobody runs them through customs until they get to Memphis. So all during this 1 month long journey up the Mississippi River, they get met by packet boats, commissary boats, mail, and everything else. And there's a back and forth exchange on whatever is on those barges, and nobody's looking.
And that could be everything from guns to drugs.
Well, worse than that.
How about
ammonium nitrate? That is a very effective, long pulse explosive, and the military uses it as explosive, the explosive in 155 millimeter howitzer shells. So it is also the most common fertilizer in the United States. So you have tons of ammonium nitrate being shipped up that river on barges, and it's 1.5 times more powerful per pound than dynamite. So if you've got 8,000 tons worth of ammonium nitrate, that's just 4 barges. You get 6 of them, and you've got the explosive equivalent, non-nuclear, to what they dropped on Hiroshima in World War II.
And surely the Islamists, terrorists, Al-Qaeda, others are aware of this, right?
I'm sure they are. But you see, you know where it's particularly hazardous? You get up here to Vicksburg, they've got an upslope from the southern portion of the Mississippi River that goes up to Vicksburg. If you detonate this off, even if it's non-nuclear, or you can make it dirty if you wanted to. So,
a dirty bomb, nuclear dirty bomb.
But you don't have to. You still have the explosive equivalent of what they dropped on the first one in Japan, which was 16 kilotons. So that goes right up that ramp, and you wipe out Vicksburg, Mississippi. And nobody's checking. This place has got amazing potential, but it's also a trap for the unwary.
What about all the cars that are constantly being stolen? Are these being put on cargo containers and shipped overseas somewhere?
We have another problem. A woman who is the county clerk is being scapegoated. She's done her homework. She had to go to paper audits because the computers were hacked, and she discovered that $28 million had been taken, and it went through the county mayor's office, who wrote a letter along with another somebody up in Nashville that they took it, because what's the problem? We've been doing it. But see, also there were several thousand license plates that disappeared, but they have been tracked through one of the mayor's offices, and those license plates are now showing up in interstate commerce on stolen vehicles. So there's all kinds of criminality going on.
What about sex trafficking? How big of a problem is that here?
That is a big problem here. I know from 45 years ago, well, I represented a lot of pimps and whores here.
As an attorney?
As an attorney. And
we're talking politicians or pimps and whores?
I'm talking about real pimps and whores.
I know.
They charged them a lot of times with what they charged Diddy with, because a lot of them were over here in West Memphis, Arkansas. So they would bring them from West Memphis over here, or from where they had that series, P Valley down in Mississippi. So that was not an uncommon criminal offense back then. But there are a lot of these kind of things going on here, and they never did particularly clean this up.
So let me ask you, it sounds like what President Trump, that we need to send this interview to him, and that President Trump and his administration, and I know one or two of the White House attorneys. It sounds like Memphis, and I'm sure there are other cities, but Memphis needs more than National Guard. It sounds like Memphis needs to have the FBI and the DOJ in here, and we have a lot of people that need to be questioned.
That's certainly correct. This place needs an audit. They had a sting operation about 20-some years ago, maybe a little longer than that, called Tennessee Waltz.
I remember that.
They need to have a Memphis boogie. This is a very bad place, and it is bad for what this town could be. This could be the Chicago for the 21st century. This could be the Silicon Valley for the 21st century.
They've said it could be like the Dixie Digital, right? Like Silicon Valley.
But see, there's another aspect too. We have a thing now with energy production. You've got a very high water velocity down here where the Mississippi River curves around Memphis. You've got 220-foot deep channels. There is no reason you cannot take modular hydroelectric generators like they use in Africa and Asia, which usually swing to and fro with the tides. But the Mississippi River runs 24/7 in the same direction. You don't need concrete emplacement, so you don't need any dams. All you need is some wharves, docks like you have down here with a small boat harbor. You could put several thousand of these generators in there, and instead of Memphis buying energy from TVA, it could sell energy to TVA and disperse this energy from all the way from Little Rock to Chicago to Atlanta.
Which would help a lot of people because our utility bills here are going up.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I know they're going up all over the country, but we're talking Memphis. So you're saying we could get our utility bills down to next to nothing, our energy bills.
Yeah, and make a profit out of it. And the other thing, too, part of the reason our utilities are so bad, I mean, I hate to take the dog out for a walk. One of them might pee on the sidewalk and everything breaks down. But one of the reasons is because the infrastructure has been allowed to decay because the money's going to something else. There is an opportunity for the people in the construction and development industries to get billions into their bank accounts in about 5 years. Remember, it's just 2.5 more years before Blue Oval is supposed to start operating up here in Mason. So when they start bringing in the relatives and everybody, you need some.
But the infrastructure isn't going here because the money is going to corruption.
Yeah, that's right.
And the police aren't fighting the crime because the money is going to corruption. So everything comes down to corruption.
That's right.
So the real criminals they should be going after isn't just the drug gangs, it's the politicians. Is that what I'm hearing? Those are the real criminals?
Yes.
Because those real criminals that you're talking about enable the street criminals, do they not?
Yes. See, this is actually, I handled a lot of capital murder cases as a defense lawyer. I used to train the capital defense team for the public defender's office. And hell, I used to run the public defender's office back in the 1970s. My partner after that ran it when it switched over to the county. And then my partner who became mayor, A.C. Wharton, ran the public defender's office. I know it. One of the things that we have right here is that Memphis is the first-degree murder capital of the United States. There are so many homicides that are disguised as unfortunate incidents. There was a barbecue place here. Everybody loved it. Hell, I did. I know I did. It was a problem. They used to close at 2 o'clock every night, but the cash register would close up 7:30 or 8. They were laundering money, and that's one of the businesses here. You can go down on Beale Street and find that as well. And something went funny, but the proprietor of the place turned up dead one Wednesday night, early in the morning, one-car wreck on I-55 near Shelby Drive. Thursday, his general manager turned up dead, same circumstances, and Friday, his chief accountant. Oh, horrible coincidence. How tragic. See, that goes on.
How about you? Aren't you worried?
No. They tried to get me when I was on the James Earl Ray case, but it was exciting.
Let's switch to that, by the way, in closing. Charlie Kirk, murdered, assassinated on September 10th. I thought about you, and I talked about you in the air because you did as a judge, the James Earl Ray case. And so you talked about the rifles that the FBI had that went missing.
Okay,
And
well, I'll tell you what that's about. Let's summarize the story. James Earl Ray's Remington 760 Game Master, a pump-action rifle, is not the murder weapon. The murder weapon, at least the item that fired the fatal bullet they removed from King, had a rate of rifling twist of 1 turn in every 11 1/4 inches. His rifle had a turn rate of 1 in every 10 inches. The Army Marksmanship Unit had made 63 barrels that matched this specification, made 62 rifles on invoice. The FBI, late December 1967, got 5 of these rifles. By the end of April 68, the Justice Department ordered the FBI to return these rifles. They claimed they lost one when they did the inventory. The serial number is the one that's missing out of the previous 4, and that was supplied on the invoice. Also 5,000 rounds of the special custom ammunition that is consistent with what they killed King with. The last I checked in terms of the studies we were doing was that Hoover had one of his people. Hoover knew about it, and he had 2 Marine snipers recruited from Quantico, which is right across the tarmac, about from here, a couple of blocks down from the FBI training academy. They fired the fatal shot from the fire station, not the flop house, and not from the bushes. In fact, if you go in the flop house now, which the Lorraine Motel Museum has acquired, it says it could not be fired because the window wouldn't go up far enough to do that. And the bushes were right below that, and if anybody was supposed to be shooting from the bushes, they would have been quite visible from Main Street from a distance about here across the street for several hours. So there is an officer, Reddick, who was on overwatch. Reddick ran for sheriff up here in, I believe it was Haywood County. And Reddick gave us the story that he refused to remove himself. He got hog-tied, feet tied with a rope and double handcuffed, and they removed him from the scene because he refused to leave.
they didn't need they didn't want him there to see what was about to happen.
No, they didn't want him there to see. And the whole thing about the delay and the dinner for King, that's not the story. We got a statement from the lady in question, and that reverend's wife said, "I'd fixed it. I'm mad because I have to make gravy because everything is drying out." They kept postponing it. And when you look at the timelines, there's some interesting things going on. So that's one thing that's unsolved.
And yet the shooters came from the top of the firehouse. So I ask all that because you and I have done an interview extensively on that. And then you have the questions about Bobby Kennedy, right? And of course we have President Kennedy. And now we have this weird situation with Charlie Kirk. And there's a lot of questions flying, and maybe we'll get them answered, maybe we won't. But what are your initial thoughts on this, based on your background? That's why I wanted to bring up your background.
I think it was a pro operation because it was too clumsy. But from what I've been reading, the shot was fired from about 200 meters away. Any good old boy from the south or west who does deer hunting can take that shot because that's just average for deer hunting.
With a scope.
Yeah, about 200 meters, and everything's scoped now. So 200 meters is not big. You're talking about a target, the triangle like this, but when you're shooting a deer, you're trying to get his heart or the arterial complex along with his lungs, and you're shooting at something like that from 200 meters. So that's an easy shot. That was not a difficult shot. There are people in this town, old guys, young guys, can take that shot all day long.
So you think it is what it is?
I think there is some unofficial support for it, and one thing that I noticed in all of these homicide cases that I represented people on was that sometimes you can set something up because you know it's likely to happen and you ignore it.
So you're saying that this kid may have had help?
He may have been ignored. I think that's what happened with Trump, is they knew what was going on and they just turned a blind eye to it and hoped it happened. It would solve a lot of problems. Wow. But he missed.
Yeah, he did, thankfully. Hey, Judge Joe Brown.
And by the way, I'll help out the president if he wants to talk to me. I have some ideas about what to do with this crime situation.
Well, we're going to send this to the White House. We know people there. We're going to send this. Judge, you have your own podcast, your own broadcast. How can people hear it?
Okay, that's with The Real Dana, and it's on Monday and Thursday. It's called Injustice for All on Thursday and Man Up on Monday. And on Tuesday, we do X Space at around 9 Central.
So just put in Judge Joe Brown into X and you'll find it.
Yes.
How about your barbecue sauce? Tell me about that before I let you go.
Oh, that's great stuff. It's been winning a lot of contests. It's called Judge Joe Brown Barbecue. So just take the initials, JJB, Judge Joe Brown, Barbecue, BBQ.com. Go to the website. You can find it. And one of the people that's collaborating with me is one of Beyonce's personal chefs, Chef Damon. And we are also available on Amazon, which I think is the easiest way to get it because they'll deliver in 2 days.
Absolutely.
Free shipping. Now, this is something that's 45 years old, and it started way back 1980. There used to be a barbecue team called Porkus MD. And we'd go down to the river for the contest, so it's placed a bit.
Yep, it's good stuff, folks. It really is. Thank you, Judge. We appreciate it.
And take back your town. There is no excuse for America to have flaunted morality, dignity, and a sense of purpose and a causality to your life. Too much of this victimization has been going on. It's very nasty. One of the things I did when I was on the criminal bench, let me conclude with this, is I drastically reduced the statewide recidivism rate. What was the secret? You get the defendants to man up or woman up, and you give them a purpose and a cause, so when they looked in the mirror every morning, they had some reason to exist. Soldiers will go through tremendous hardship if they feel that they have a cause they're fighting for. But when you take the average person based on the Democratic Party prognostications and pontifications, you have no purpose except to enjoy yourself, and most of these people don't have the wherewithal to really enjoy themselves, so they aren't committed to any purpose and cause, and they die. So give them something to live for.
I agree with that. Judge Joe Brown, folks. We'll be right back.
All right.
All right, Judge Joe Brown down there on the street at Overton Square in Memphis. Interesting interview, that's for sure. Interesting fella. All right, guys, if you appreciate what we're doing, we can keep it going. We've been on the air a lot this week. 3 hours this morning, then an hour of radio. That's 4 hours. Worldview Report, and then Brannon Howse Live. We've been doing a ton of radio the last few days, have we not? So, folks, we need your support to keep pushing it out free of charge. Please, please, please go to worldviewfoundation.com and support us, won't you? Worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music, guys. Let's call it a night. You'll also find our mailing address there if you want to support us. Hey, by the way, take a look at what this lady put out today. The persistence. The sheer amount of teachers celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination should make every parent in America consider homeschooling their children. Yeah, she's right about that. All right, folks, I'll be back on Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, as I continue teaching through the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 20 will continue through that Sunday night. Hope you'll be here. May God save America. Take care. Tonight on the Worldview Report, a suspect has been arrested in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We have details. Poland has sent 40,000 troops to be deployed on its eastern border as it prepares for Russia's huge joint military drills with Belarus. President Donald Trump elicits fresh health fears on social media during his latest public appearance in honor of the victims of 9/11. Former president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, gets sentenced to 27 years in prison for allegedly trying to stay in office after he felt the 2022 election was rigged against him. And the federal trial of Ryan Ruth, the accused would-be assassin of President Trump at his West Palm Beach golf club, well, he gets his trial going in Fort Pierce, Florida. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brannon Howse. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brannon Howse.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brannon Howse. Well, we now have a suspect that has been arrested for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's said to be a 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Here is the governor of Utah talking about it earlier this morning.
Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence